I'm Ken Boreski. Although the City of Miami Beach, and the police department in particular, insist on painting me with a very negative brush, I hope instead you will let the facts speak for themselves and recognize that I am an honest, hardworking, and law-abiding citizen, and that, as I've been saying for years, this city is not bicycle or pedestrian friendly. Today I speak specifically about the events leading up to and including my unlawful arrest on January 9th, 2015. Although one of our commissioners said at a recent commission meeting, "We are the kind of city who respects people's constitutional rights," my experience shows otherwise. I would have thought my previous address to the commission and city manager on this incident in July 2015 would have prompted a review of the police misbehavior, but it appears that never happened. As I had feared at that point in time, I have been subjected to further mistreatment by our police department. According to the police report, the Miami Beach Police Department was dispatched in reference to an aggressive white male harassing an employee. In fact, I had called police in response to the aggressive and life-threatening behaviors of the driver of a white Lexus SUV. Allegedly, I had followed the employee into the parking lot at Joe's Stone Crab. In reality, I remained on the roadway as I was headed towards my next client, never entering the parking lot as described in the arrest affidavit. Apparently, Miss Lyle, the alleged victim, feared for her safety. Clearly, driving an SUV, she has every reason to feel intimidated by a shirtless man on a bicycle. The police report also states that the witness, Mr. Zeifman, observed me yelling at her and attempted to calm me down. They must have been referencing his apparent thinking that my name is Richard, as he repeatedly called me Dick. According to the police report, I demanded justice. Actually, all I'm looking for out on the road is a little more respect for my right to life. I've been asking the city of Miami Beach for that for many years. It's been constantly ignored. But then Officer Pereira claims I was yelling at him and the other officers claiming corruption. While the corruption part may be true, it was not me who said that. I remained calm and civil during the entire ordeal, only raising my voice after I was cuffed. Allegedly, Joe's patrons were getting up to see what happened, causing a disruption. As the judge correctly noted after my night behind bars, this conflicts with the stated need to arrest me to protect said restaurant patrons. In fact, any commotion caused would have been as a direct result of my unlawful arrest. What I find particularly funny is that Officer Pereira swears that the responding officers asked me to leave and I refused. I was never given that option, and instead forcibly had my constitutional rights violated. Arrested without incident, as the report states, when in fact excessive force was used. I'm still dealing with shoulder issues and pain 2 years later. I had attempted to attend the March 1st, 2017 Sutnick Hour to speak, but though the city clerk announced the meeting would resume after lunch at 1:30 p.m., the meeting was actually resumed earlier, and upon my arrival at 1:30, I was not allowed to speak. How convenient. Due to the heavy presence of police department, which has violated my constitutional rights, I do not feel comfortable sitting around the commission chambers while the meeting is not live streaming. So I waited until the scheduled start to arrive. Per the Miami Beach Police Department website, the first step in an internal affairs complaint is contacting the city manager's office. I had intended to formally do this during that March 1st meeting, but instead will use this video for that purpose. The city manager, Jimmy Morales, has been sent this video and was present at the commission meeting in July 2015 when I first shared this horrible experience publicly. I would have thought that the city would have investigated my unlawful arrest when it was reported to them well over a year ago, but that doesn't appear to have been the case. Based on the ongoing mistreatment and violation of rights I've endured at the hands of city employees, I am not comfortable with a private, non-intimidating meeting. I fear for my safety in such circumstances, and that any non-public communications will be used to further harass, threaten, or otherwise retaliate against me. Prior to my arrest 2 years ago, city personnel had been threatening to arrest me. Based on the ongoing mistreatment I have been subjected to by various city personnel, I do not feel safe during any contact with those in the employ of the city of Miami Beach. As such, I am giving my formal statement here and publicly. I have nothing to hide, and know that the facts wholly support what I have previously stated and will repeat shortly. I am confident that if those who were present at the time of my arrest are given the opportunity to share what they saw, their experience will back my narrative and not that given in the police report. I think it goes without saying that if the video evidence from Joe's had supported the claims made in the arrest affidavit, that video would have been used in my prosecution. This video constitutes my sworn testimony in the initiation of an internal affairs complaint against Officers Pereira, Molina, and the female officer involved in my arrest, as well as any others involved. While I believe the female officer's name was Mercado, I am not certain of this. This is also a request for an investigation to Deputy Chief Rick Clements over any role he may have had in this unlawful arrest. Finally, this complaint also concerns Chief Daniel Oates, based on the negligence and lack of proper oversight that allows this type of behavior to occur, as well as the failure to properly address known instances of law-abiding citizens who have been wronged by those under his command. As indicated on the website, I will be awaiting the mailed notification of the outcome of this case, which, if this city really cares about the Constitution, will involve significant punishment, including jail time, for the personnel involved. For my safety, the aforementioned notification may be mailed to the out-of-state address provided in the attached correspondence to the city. I declare, under penalty of perjury, that the following is true and correct. This statement, made on March 14, 2017, is in reference to the events occurring on January 9, 2015, on the MacArthur Causeway or Washington Avenue near Joe Stonecrab, where I was lawfully riding my bicycle. Around 3 p.m. that afternoon, I was cycling eastbound across the MacArthur Causeway when a Lexus SUV zoomed by dangerously close to me. As I continued to the next client on South Point, I noticed the same driver pulling into Joe Stonecrab. Now at a slower speed, I informed her that she needed to provide more passing space next time, as many drivers are not aware of the 3-foot passing requirement. The driver responded aggressively towards me, and so I interpreted her previous behavior as intentional and called the police non-emergency line. A Joe's employee, who I think may have been a manager, approached me and also acted uncivilly towards me. A few minutes later, 3 uniformed police officers showed up and immediately sided with the folks at Joe's. Despite no legal grounds for arrest, I was forcefully arrested. I never was a physical threat to anyone during this entire ordeal, and I was never given the option to leave. I hadn't even raised my voice at the time I was cuffed. Although I offered no resistance, Officer Pereira forcefully yanked my arm behind my back and twisted my arm and shoulder unnecessarily. As he led me to the police car, he continued with this treatment. I'm still dealing with rotator cuff issues. The handcuffs were also on unnecessarily tight, cutting off blood flow to my hand. It seemed like he knew exactly what he was doing, how to cause pain and injury without any outward physical signs. Interesting, simply Googling his name brings up other complaints similar to mine. As I was being arrested, I repeatedly inquired as to why this was happening. Officer Pereira whispered to me that it was because the apparent manager at Joe's was his father. As I sat in the back of the police car, the male officers present joked about who wants a new mountain bike. My bike is actually a road bike, but it was quite clear that they were simply trying to get under my skin. Once I was transported back to the Miami Beach Police Headquarters, Officer Pereira forced me to sit in those uncomfortable V-shaped chairs as long as he possibly could. As I fidgeted a bit, trying to get blood flow through to my hand, Officer Pereira even joked that he might fear for his life. At one point, while he sat at his computer, the female arresting officer entered the room and asked, "What are you charging with him?" The female officer entered and asked, "What are you charging him with?" Officer Pereira responded along the lines of, "I haven't figured that out yet." The department's own audio and video footage from that room while I was present within the police headquarters will certainly fully corroborate this. I was forced to remain in that chair until I actually managed to fall asleep in it, at which point Officer Pereira immediately woke me and moved me to the holding cell. Once I was moved to the holding cell, I was still not allowed to dress. Despite the chilly temperature, I was not allowed a shirt. Whether this was intended as humiliation or discomfort, I am not sure. Then, as I was transported to Dade County Jail, the other inmates commented, "You're going to freeze there." I was still not allowed a shirt. Among the prisoners on my side of the paddy wagon, I wasn't even the only one whose arrest wasn't exactly peaceful. I believe this other individual was actually sent to the hospital for his injuries. When I expressed concern over the pain in my shoulder to the first nurse as I was processed, she replied simply, "You should see a doctor for that," and sent me on my way. I'm not sure why she did not get me the appropriate care, but as I had already been illegally arrested in a violent manner and felt my life in danger, I chose not to push the issue. So far, I was alive. I could not risk that changing over an unknown pain in my shoulder. During this whole ordeal, I was never once read my rights, and I was not even told the formal reason for my arrest until nearly 4 hours later, as I was already at the county jail. I was never allowed my phone call. As my contacts have out-of-state phone numbers, I was told to wait until I was sent to the cell block. When we were finally moved to our block, we were told tomorrow morning, yet that never happened either. The next day, the judge threw out the case over the objection of the state attorney's office due to no probable cause in the first place. Yet the issues didn't end there. Once I was released, with cash on me forced as payment for my time in jail, and only a single bus pass that did not provide transfers and therefore did not get me home, well, somehow I had to get home. Thankfully, I had my own Miami-Dade transit pass to get me the rest of the way, but I feel for all of those who are stranded miles from home as a result of this apparent policy. Then I had to wait several days before the police department's property unit was open to return the items that had been forcibly taken from me. And once returned, I found that my several $1,000 bicycle had been damaged while in the city's care. Thankfully, this was only a minor cost to repair, but even so, as a result of this unlawful arrest, I was unable to run my business properly for nearly 2 weeks. Long term, the damages caused by the city's unlawful actions continue to haunt me. I now have a permanent record and a mugshot that is readily available online. As an independent consultant whose career depends on reputation and trust, this is quite damaging, and I continue to be mistreated by the City of Miami Beach personnel. In summary, I was forcefully and unlawfully arrested, apparently for riding a bicycle and speaking up about bike safety. Large portions of the arrest affidavit signed by Officer Pereira are completely falsified, yet even if this report were entirely true, they do not articulate a valid reason for my arrest. I fear that I am certainly not the only law-abiding citizen who has been victimized by this city, and although I fear and fully expect further retaliation from the city for speaking up, I believe it is in my duty to do so, to hopefully protect others in the future from having their rights and lives violated by those who are sworn to protect us. I hope the city will take these allegations seriously and properly punish those who have broken the law.